Okay, now that we have our stained glass all soldered together, I'm just gonna hold it up so you can kind of see it. So you can see that we spot welded it first to make sure everything was sticking together, and then we ran a solder line all the way through. Remember to leave that, that 1/4 inch gap anywhere along the edge, because then our frame that we're going to be kind of talking about, this is one of the stock that we have, will easily fit over top of that. If you don't leave that gap, these don't go on. You can force them, but they don't go on nearly as easily. So hopefully you made sure that was right, and hopefully you know that you did both sides of it. So we're all set. So the next thing to kind of talk about is that there are two different kinds of zinc frame that we have. We have this size right here, which I believe is a 1/4 inch, and this one right here is like 1/8 of an inch. Stained glass work, you do want to try to make sure that people notice the design. So you want to try not to use the 1/4 inch, but if you have these large gaps on there, then you have to. That's why when I kind of talk about that, when you have this along the inside of your frame, like this, that this side and this side have the most priority when you start lining this up and soldering together, that you should sacrifice a gap, somewhere inside of here, just to make sure you have that straight line, because this should be completely straight here, this should be completely straight there, and if you have an issue with it, then you got to switch over to over this. So first thing is to figure out, well, which stock am I going to use? So I'm going to take this piece right here, and I don't think on this one I can, because if you look at it over here, you can see my thumb going up and down, and if it was just that gap right there, probably not. But this piece in itself, you can see the way that it's indented in there. It goes more than a 1/4 inch. So I'm pressing this, making sure that I'm as far as I possibly can. And so this piece would not allow it. But if I take the 1/4 inch stock, then that covers up that end of that glass, and then we won't have a problem. Okay. So is it a big deal, between these two? This is the first time this person's ever done stained glass. So there's a lot that she learned, and it's still going to get an A on the project. It's just that you're going to just lose 1/8 of an inch, around the entire thing. So your outside's going to be a little more bulky, but you can still easily get an A on the project. The goal is to try to use this thinner stock, because I think everywhere else on here, I'm just double kind of checking. Well, not on this other side. So her left and right sides, she wouldn't be able to, because what we could have done if this was flush on this side, on this side right here, this piece of glass is a little on the big side. This is where I kind of do want you to talk to me about stuff. Is I would have ground down like 1/8 of an inch off the side here, and then we would have been able to cover all that up. But again, it is what it is. So we're gonna switch over to this one, because this one covers everything up. So I guess first thing is like, where did I get this at? And we're also going to have another tool that we're going to use as a small miter saw. I'm going to kind of position the camera here in a second. But all of this is over where the stained glass is at. That we have that that corner red and black cabinet. There are a couple of cylinders that are there that have these inside of them. Okay, so your leftovers need to kind of go in there if they are smaller than. If they're smaller than 5 inches, then you can probably just throw in the recycle bin. But anything larger than that, we can still use it. Okay. If we don't have any stock in there that you're looking for, in the kiln room currently is where I'm kind of sticking that behind the kiln. You can ask me about that when I can help you out with it. But I'm going to position the camera so I can show you how to mark this so we can get our frame cut. Thanks. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do with this is I need to cut these to the size that I need it. So I'm going to grab a ultra fine Sharpie marker, and I'm going to kind of stick it onto the piece as a whole. I'm not going to actually slide it all the way on. I mean, I could, but I don't need to. Never mind, I just said. It'll probably be a little nicer. So I'm gonna see if I can zoom in and see how far you can see. Is that you want to have this really almost flush with the corner. What that means is that right now it's completely touching the side of it, and you just want like a 1/16 of an inch, just a shade, over that's just a little on the bigger side, because you want to make sure that when you butt the next one up next to it, that you don't have it so far out that it creates even farther, but you don't want to have it too far in that it won't actually get the side of it. So just a shade over that, nothing more than a 1/16 of an inch. If that's confusing, just make it flush with that and you'll be fine. So I'm gonna mark it on this side. So the copper line is right there. I'm just gonna mark it right here. And this will be my first piece. And I'm gonna actually write on this top. Make sure I don't get that confused. Okay. Let me flip this one over. This has kind of a ruined edge on it, so I'm gonna actually cut that off right away. So what you're gonna use is our mini miter saw that we have, or a chop saw. This is over again in that corner where the stock is at, and we have another grinder wheel. That's usually where I try to keep that special one because we have a little smaller area. It's pretty cool. You gotta turn it on. It has this blade right here that comes down. You can't get down all the way unless you press this release, and then you can cut it. It also has this little locking vise on here that you can put your stock on there and then hold it in place. It can lock. And then you just kind of eyeball it before you kind of get an idea where you have that. So for example, I'm going to take this stock, and I like to have the open side down. So I know that's going to be good there. I'm going to tighten that up slightly, turn that on, slowly go down. And that's cut out. Okay, so I have my top. Again, just slightly bigger on the side. Again, just like a 16-inch, just something super small. I'm gonna mark this side, and I may label this bottom. I'll just put down a B. Okay, I'm gonna cut this cut. So from my perspective, let's see if I can turn this so you can see a little better. I'm gonna pretend to drop this down. I'm not gonna turn it on, but I wanna make sure that cut is right along that line I just made. I'm gonna tighten this down, turn it on, slowly go in. Okay, that's my bottom piece. It looks like that's right where that needs to be at. Gonna tighten that down, turn it on. Loosen that up. Okay, this time I'm going to put them on. So bottom. And this is really easy to do if you don't have an issue with that solder being in too far. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so those two pieces are in. I'm going to measure my next section. And on this one, you want to be slightly on the inside. So top and bottom, slightly larger. This one, slightly more on the inside. So hopefully I can zoom in, because I want to make sure that this fits, on the inside of that piece. So this one definitely needs to be a little more, just like, and again, a 1/16 of an inch smaller. And I'm gonna call this I can see my top and my bottom, I'm gonna call this my right. And then this one, I'll do the same thing. Slightly smaller, like a 1/16 of an inch inside of that one I just made, and give this one L. Get that cut. Drop that blade down, make sure that's lined up. It's my left side. Same thing. Line up that cut. Okay. Now, the way that you stick these on is I'm going to take this right one, and I'm going to see if I can, I'm going to actually take this one off here, the top one, so I can see a little better. So on this, I want them, if you can kind of see that the way they line up, I want them to line up like that. Okay, so you'll create this corner. They don't work so well if you try to overlap both of them. So part of it has to go on the inside, part of it has to go on the outside so they fit together, and then you still get this really nice corner like this. Now there's a gap there, and the way you get rid of that gap, if you didn't cut it quite right, is you'll be adding solder into that, and you'll just take your tip. This is not hot right now, but you'll get this nice and hot with solder on there. You'll flux that, and you just run this down like that, and that fills up. It creates this little film of solder on top of that, and it covers that up right away. Okay, so that's how you kind of take care of that part of it. Whereas I'm going to attach this on. Okay, so there's my top. Here's my right piece. So on one side I have the frame going underneath it, and on the other side I have it going on top. And I'll show you here kind of in a second. Okay. So you can see that little gap, and that's normal to have a little bit. You don't want this massive one. And you can see this side's a little on the bigger side, but it's still good because that'll cover up nicely with the solder. Okay, I'm going to take my right. I'm sorry, that was my right. I take my left. Again, slide that under. Slide that under. So you can see the corner, just a little bit of a gap, which is normal, a little bit of gap, which is normal, and your piece is framed. The next part that we're going to be doing is we're going to be soldering. So I'm going to kind of shut the video off and get that done, but I'm going to explain what I'm going to be doing is just I'm going to be adding, you don't want to have a bunch of solder all over the place, okay? But what you want to do is that this is not held together so much by right here. It's more held on by where you have your joints. So I'm going to scoot this over. You get this exactly where you want it, and then you're going to take your flux, and you're going to flux this area right here, everywhere where you have an area that's being touched. You flux just a little bit into that spot. And then you flip it over and you kind of do the same thing. This is what holds the frame on, okay? So you get that nice and hot, then you bring it over and you'll just have a little bit of a bead right here, you know, nothing massive, and then you'll get it. So maybe I will just do one real quick so you can see it. Okay, my soldering iron is hot enough. I have my flux, my solder, my sponge, and the brush. I have this all hot and ready to go. This is exactly where I want it, kind of thing, so I'm all set. So I'm gonna, again, kind of flux this area. And I'll just tack this side, and then I'll shut the video off in we'll get the other side tacked. Okay, so everything is flexed there. And I also want to show you a corner since we have this all set to go. Again, get comfortable so you don't burn yourself. Right now I would not do it this way, but I have the camera set up here, but my cord is going to cross and I don't like that, but I'm not going to reposition the camera to change it. So I have this, okay. So I just put some solder on there, turn this around. And that's it. Okay, I don't want you to have a whole bunch along the side there. So I'm gonna grab some more. It's a little more than I want, but use my other hand helps keep my other hand still. Okay, that's really good. That's really good. I've seen people just put way too much solder on the side, and it just doesn't look good. You just want to tack it in place, and that's it. And it's on so many, and this is stronger than super glue when you solder. Now, since I have this, you can go through and clean up your lines and remelt them. And so, for example, like I added a little bit right here, and it's kind of bumpy. What I would do, and I'm going to do it, is I'm just going to go through and remelt this whole area, slowly going through it, and that smooths out your solder line so it looks really nice. And this one dips down a lot, so I would actually try to probably add more into that. Same thing here. If you have the time and you're not behind on your project, or you really want to get a grade on your project, this is one of the things I look for. It's just quality lines, because this is something that I feel like I can grade on, because it's just a matter of taking your time to go through and really cleaning those lines up. So this side is done. The other side is not, but it's definitely something where I can go ahead and unplug this because it's starting to get gold. Because I want to show you how to, I still want you to kind of tack these corners together, and how simple it is. I'm just going to flux that area right there. Okay. I'm going to take this, steal a little solder from there, and just kind of watch closely, zoom in. I have solder on the other side. A little more solder. Hoping you could see that, but all I did was just kind of stick it on here. I'll try to do one more so you can see it a little better. I'll try to watch the camera this time. Okay. That's it. So I just had it stuck on there, let it heat up, and just slid it down, and it's good. We're gonna finish the other side, and then I'll show you how to put the chain links on. Okay, now that I have this all soldered, this is the back. So we're gonna be putting our links onto the back side of here so we can add our chain. So what we're gonna do, just kind of like how you did on the first project, is I got my soldering iron kind of warming up right now. I have a a scrap piece of glass right here, which is not going to be big enough. I need a scrap piece of the stock, so I can set over top of that to get it at the same level. I'm going to get a link out of here. I need 2 of them. Okay, so I have 2 links, and then I'm going to get some of this, and you can open and close these pretty easily. So I'm actually going to close these up and solder these on first. Okay, I'm going to set that on there where I want it. I'm going to flux it. Again, do not make this gaudy. You just need a little bit of solder to hold that on and you will be fine. And the trick with doing this is to make sure that the link is hot. And then it'll go on pretty easily. So I'm gonna get some solder on here. And it might shift on me, so I might have to use a pair of pliers. We're gonna make sure we're zoomed in. Set this down using 2 hands, try to keep my hand as steady as possible without burning myself. I'm touching that link with my soldering iron to heat that metal up. And I'm looking to see, trying to get that, the solder over top of the link. I don't like it when it's just a little bit on the inside or a little bit on the outside. So I'm gonna reflux this, which is normal. Because remember, if it doesn't stick, the metal's too dirty. And it's not hot enough. Getting a lot closer. Just a little more solder. And I know that link is hot enough because I've heated it a couple times. And now you can see that the metal is over top of it as well as underneath it, so that is attached very well. Take my next link. Again, I like to have that broken part of that link, that split. I'm going to make sure that's soldered. Add my flux. Make sure there's still a good gap for me to put my links, my chain on. Some solder on here. Keep my hand nice and steady because I want to keep it in one place. Heating up that link by keeping that iron on there. That's part of the trick. Grab a little more solder. A little more flux. More of the solder right here. Grab that little bit, and it's not gonna happen. Again, you just want to make sure that that solder goes over the link. And sometimes your iron can get too hot. This is kind of edging on the too hot part on here right now, but that works right there. Unplug my solder. So these 2 are done, not too gaudy. I'm gonna take my link here, and this is where you kind of decide, well, how big of an area do you want? You know, do you want you just want a small area, you know, like this? I would probably take, I have a ruler right here, minimum of 1 foot. And maximum 2 feet's 2 feet's a little excessive, maybe 16 inches. So there's 12 inches there, 18 inches. And I'm gonna go up another 6, and I'm gonna do 18 inches on this. Now I'm gonna take a pair of pliers. Doesn't matter what kind of pliers it is, but you just need to pull to open these up. and then you're going to close them. So you hook them inside, take your pliers, and pliers that have some teeth on the inside here do make it a lot easier to close these because they slip all over the place. I'm gonna grab this one because this one has teeth. Okay, that's closed. I'm gonna open this up. So it's open. Slide that in place. Go down lower on this. That was a lot easier that time. And then you have your masterpiece. Good job on this. The student that did this. A few things they need to work on. We did have to use a thicker stock. Still an easy A project on here. Remember, after you've done one of these, even if you don't have me for an art class, like a semester later, and you like doing this, just talk to me. More than likely, I'll let you come in. Kind of depending on what you want to do, more than likely I'll just let you do it for free. If you start getting into larger pieces like this and you have to use more of our glass, I might say, well, you could go to Hobby Lobby or in Dubuque or the Vinery, like in Madison. Buy a couple sheets, for your project. That might cost you, like 12, 20, 24 bucks maybe to get a couple colors you really want. And then if you donate the colors to us, absolutely at that point you can use it for free, which means you use our glass. You donate yours, we can use that. It's a win-win for everybody kind of thing. So good luck on that. Get everything cleaned up. Get a photo of this and on our Sonia. Remember, use the black and white board over there. Figure out which one yours looks good on. Probably the white one, I think, is what we always use. Name tag, it's put it on the bottom right-hand corner. And don't put it like on here. Tape it so you can see, most of your design so we can display these in the library or out in the community. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the project. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.